Hello, it's Lisa Dickey from Dickey's Cooking School, and it is pie season officially in Ontario. And so the first pie up for season is our beloved strawberry rhubarb. This is actually fresh rhubarb, but I bought so much of it, I was excited that I actually had to freeze it. I bought pounds and pounds of it. Rhubarb is in season now. Great time to get it. Pair it with strawberries. We of course don't have Ontario strawberries yet. They'll be later June, but that doesn't mean you can't make this pie. So right now I have 2 cups of strawberries cut, not in little slices, and 2 cups of rhubarb cut in they're about 1/2 inch thick. Into my frying pan, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons, give or take, of unsalted butter. I'm not too fussed on the particulars. We're gonna saute our raw strawberry and rhubarb in butter. We're gonna add about 1 cup of sugar. I've got a mix of brown sugar and white sugar. Of course, you could do all white. Of course, you could do all brown, or you could do a mix. You could substitute a liquid, but you're gonna have to be aware of how soupy your mix is, because if it's too liquid, it's gonna make your pastry soggy. Once this butter is melted, we're gonna saute the rhubarb and the strawberries until they get good and juicy. We're gonna add in a teaspoon of cinnamon. We're gonna add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then eventually we're going to mix together a combination of 2 tablespoons. I've got fresh squeezed orange juice. If you don't have fresh squeezed orange juice, you can just take an orange and squeeze it fresh yourself. Or of course you could use whatever orange juice you've got going in the fridge. We're gonna make a little slurry with that and thicken it up, and then we're gonna make our pie. So this is getting nice and saucy. I've turned my heat up to medium, so my cooktop range is 1 to 10, so I've got it at number 5. And we just need this to simmer up. It's really helpful to saute and simmer these berries and rhubarb ahead of time. 1, because you can gauge how sweet it is. So again, I did about 1 cup of sugar. You might want to do less sugar. You might want to do more sugar, but it's easier to taste it than after the pie's cooked, because then you don't know, okay? So now we're gonna taste our sauce before we add the cinnamon and the cornstarch and the vanilla. So when you go to taste this, if you taste just the liquid, it's gonna be sweet. If you taste the strawberry, it's gonna be a little less sweet. And if you taste the rhubarb, it's gonna be the least sweet. So absolutely sample a little bit of the sauce with the rhubarb. Okay, that's gonna be because that's gonna be deciding if it's too sour. So grab a little piece of rhubarb, grab some of that hot sauce. Yum. You want the sauce to cut the rhubarb, but you don't want it to be so sweet that you can't taste it. It's a tangy rhubarb tart pie. Okay, so now we're gonna add our cornstarch. So cornstarch needs 2 things to do its job, and its job is to thicken things, okay? It needs heat and it needs mechanical stirring to activate it, okay? It needs to be jostled. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix our orange juice in. If you didn't want to mix orange juice, if you didn't have orange juice, you could just withdraw some of the liquid from your pie juice and add that in. And the reason you would do that is it's not gonna dilute it. And in this case, it's not gonna dilute it. It's gonna add a slight orange flavor to this. So here goes in my cornstarch. I'm gonna pour it in, and then I'm going to immediately start stirring that in. If you don't stir it right away, what will happen is you'll just get a big goopy blob, which is really actually quite disgusting, unless you like goopy blobs in your pie. Okay, so you can see right away, if I pull my spatula away, you see how it separates? That shows me that it's thickening, okay? So now I'm gonna stir in, I'm gonna turn that down a bit. I don't need all that heat. I'm gonna stir in my cinnamon and my vanilla. I'm gonna give that a stir. Okay, there is my beautiful strawberry rhubarb filling. I'm not gonna dump this right into my pie crust. It's really hot and it's gonna just melt my dough. So then the base is gonna be a little compromised. I'm not gonna cool it completely, but I'm gonna let it stand for about 10 minutes. Let's roll out our pastry dough. This is a sour cream pastry. I made it a few days ago. Your pastry can be in the fridge for up to a few days, or you can always freeze it. Just wrap it tightly so it doesn't get freezer burn. When you're rolling out your dough, make sure you have enough flour underneath and enough flour on top. Give your rolling pin a nice little coat, and you want to keep your hands close to the center of your dough. You'll have more control of giving it a smooth push. So you're going to give it a nice roll back and forth. Give it a quarter turn, a nice roll. And the reason why you keep giving it a quarter turn is that if there's any sticking, if you have an especially wet patch of your dough, you want to find out early on that where that wet patch is, because if you roll the whole dough out and then you find that it's stuck, then you have to just basically do it again. And pastry really is better if you handle it less, okay? You're making it more glutinous the more time you roll it out. And you want it not glutinous, which means it's stretchy. You want it flaky. So we're gonna roll it nice and wide so there's enough space to not only fill the base of your pie plate, but also all of this area and some overhang so you can make a little ruffled edge. So we're gonna give that a good roll. These little gaps here can be seamed up. We'll see if we even need it. So now I've got my pastry, and I'm going to very carefully roll my pastry onto my pin. Oop, there's a little sticky patch. And now I'm going to carefully unroll it off my pin. So then you just kind of gently pick up the sides and sink it in. And I'm going to just leave this for now. If I need some of this dough later, I'm going to make a lattice top. So I'm going to roll some of this out, and I'll leave this for now and I'll trim it later on. There you go. So I'm going to just cut my strips for my lattice top. So the same thing, I'm going to roll it. Definitely you have to, I need strips at least 9 inches across, probably 10 inches so you've got some room to pinch. And then we'll cut some shorter strips in order to get the little side pieces here. So once I have it rolled out, I'm going to just use my pizza cutter to cut little, like strips about 1 inch thick, maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. If you don't have a pizza cutter, you can just use a butter knife. And if you can't cut in a straight line, like I can't, you should probably use a ruler. Okay? The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sink a little bit of butter. Honestly, I should have done this before. I don't know how I forgot about my beloved butter, but I'm going to shove some butter pats underneath because butter is delicious and it makes it nice and saucy. There we go. Let's get one more in between here just for good measure. There we go. Now I've got my pastry brush and I'm going to give a gentle brush over the top. Part of the reasons that you do a brushed egg coat is that when the pie's cooking, when the top of your pie is all golden brown from your egg wash, rather, that's an indication that your crust is done. Now, I'm using a glass pie plate today, so that's another indication that the crust is done. I can just pick up the pie and look underneath and see that it's a nice golden brown, and that's what you want. Give a little bit of love to the top here. Also, giving it an egg wash allows you to have a little beautiful glue to stick your sugar on top when you... And now for my sugar.
Is that brown sugar?
This is like, it's called like a demerara sugar. So it's like, it's brownish with some nice big, I don't know if you can see that, some nice big chunks there. I'm gonna do that. And that is strawberry rhubarb pie. You'll have a little peek in a little bit when it's out. So again, this is going to go into my oven at 400 for 20 minutes, and then I'm gonna decrease the temperature to 350, and it's gonna cook for another 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes. If you have a convection option in your oven, which means you have a very strong fan that's circulating heat, you could consider putting that on, and that'll shorten your cooking time. If you do that convection option, so after 15 minutes, check on it at 400. And we're gonna see the pie in a bit, but you're gonna want it for sure.
Okay.
So here is our delicious strawberry rhubarb pie. It cooked 20 minutes at 400 and about 25 minutes at 350. Allow it to cool completely. You want it to cool for 2 or 3 hours. So it's not too runny when you crack open it. Leave it on the counter. You could freeze it, or you could just grab a duvet and have some private time with yourself and go for it. Enjoy.